Hi, Emma Fenderding, the one-time skateboard champion of Possum Trot County. She held that championship for 2 years. Well, that was 50 years ago. And so now Emma Fenderding is 78 years old. But you know what? She won't drive a car. She still takes her skateboard everywhere in Possum Trot. She takes it to the grocery store. She takes it to the druggist. She gets on her skateboard and goes. And you know what? She's a little old fat lady now. I mean, she looks like a little pumpkin, but she's still pretty good on that skateboard. And she has a hat like mine, but she has a red, well, it's not like mine, it's white, but she has a red rose in the top that comes out of it, out of her hat. And she always has her purse on her wrist when she's on her skateboard. So she's going along on her skateboard with her red rose and her purse. Well, one day, Emma Fenderding was going someplace, and she went around a corner on her skateboard, and the street went downhill. And she saw at the bottom of the hill, there was a roadblock sign, you know, one of those gates with the stripes on it and flashing lights on each side, blocked off. And she noticed that at the end of the road, and down at the end of the road also, when she got that, she went around the corner on her skateboard and thought, oh no. And then there was a cement block right in her way. And Emma hit that cement block with her skateboard, and being the little round lady that she was, she went straight up in the air, tumbled around like a tennis ball, and landed right in a bunch of briar bushes, and with big thorns and stickers on them. And but she still had her purse on her wrist, and she was thinking, oh, I still got my hat on. Thank goodness I got that. But there she was in the middle of the thorn bushes. And, oh, they had pretty little pink flowers on them. Well, anyway, what happened was some of the workmen came over and they tried to help Emma get out of those thorn bushes. And they couldn't. And she was just kind of, dazed and everything. And they said, well, we need help to get you out of these thorn bushes. And one of the workmen said, well, wait, I got a pickup truck here. I got, in the back of my pickup truck, I got a long plank. I saw a 2x12, but it's like 10 feet long. But maybe we could get Emma on that, because this is why they needed it. When they got her out, she had landed so that one of the thorn branches of the bush stuck right there. Stuck right in her soft spot back there. And, oh, she was hobbling. That's why they needed the plank, because she couldn't sit down or lay down, because she had this twig, this branch that was stuck in her. And so they laid her carefully on this plank, the two workmen, on this 2x12. And she couldn't sit in the car to get to the doctor. She couldn't walk, couldn't ride a bike, couldn't ride her skate. So what they did is they each took a end of the 2x12 and they picked her up like this. Each one had the end, and they said, hold on, Emma, hold on to this 2x12. Yeah, I'm doing it, boys. Have I got my purse? Yeah, you got your purse, and you got your hat, you got everything. And so then they started down the street carrying her on her stomach on this 2x12 because she couldn't lay on her backside. And so they finally got down to the doctor with this 2x12 with Emma on it, and they had to go through a couple of doors, and people opened the door for what's going on with this lady. And then they finally got her around some corners and into the waiting room for the doctor, and then they didn't know where to put her because all the chairs were occupied and she couldn't sit down. So what they did is a lot of the people understood, and they were very kind, and they got up out of their chairs and they went over against the wall, and so the men could lay Emma on the 2x12, lay her across the arms of the chairs like that while she was still hugging the plank. And so she could stay that way, but oh, she was in such pain, poor lady. She was hurting so bad. And then the workmen, one sat in a chair on this end by the plank, and one sat on the chair that end by the plank, and the other people were on the other side of the waiting room just standing up. They could understand what was going on. Well, finally they called Emma in. It was her turn. So the workmen got up, took each end of the plank of the 2x12, and they started in trying to get around the doors and get her down the hall, and Emma's hanging on to her purse and her hat, trying to be as polite as possible about it, but she's got this branch hanging out in the back on this one cheek back here. Oh, it was so painful. It went in like a knife, but it had pretty pink flowers on it. And so they finally got her into the doctor's office, and the doctor said, "Oh my goodness, oh Emma." And he said, "Okay, you two men, you can go out now. I got to do a little bit of operating here." So he cut a hole in Emma's, it was a pretty skirt. It was like silk, and well, anyway, he made a little hole in her skirt, and he got a pair of really big pliers, almost like fence cutters, really, but they didn't cut any. Pulled that branch out of Emma, and you never heard such a squall. It was like a Indian squall at night when they're getting attacked by a bear or something. Whoa, everybody could hear it out in the waiting room. And he said, "Quick, nurse, come over here." And the nurse came with a big bottle of alcohol. And he said, "Now see through by where I cut the hole in the dress. Now pour the alcohol down in that hole where it's bleeding." So the nurse poured it down there, and whoa, holy smokes. She let out, I didn't think a little old lady had that big of a voice box in her. And so they let her settle down for a little while, said, "Emma, everything's all right. We got it out. You're going to be fine." And so then he called the men back in to please remove the plank with Emma on it. And so they brought her home. They had to walk, and they brought Emma home still laying on her stomach on the plank. Remember, this is a possum parable. And they brought her home, and the two men told their wives, "Please help us take care of Emma. We brought her here. The rest is up to you. She's going to have to be on her stomach on this plank for quite a while. So we were wondering if perhaps you could set up like a little TV table or a little stool and put some food on it, like something she could suck through a straw off the end of the plank so she doesn't have to move off of her plank." And so the women did set up some really nice soft drinks and, like milky drinks and things, and some soft food that she could suck through a straw. Well, this went on for a while, and then Emma started getting better and better, and finally she was able to sit again, and she continued her improvement. But I was thinking so much, how much that is like what the Apostle Paul was talking about when he said that the strength of sin is in the law. And you think, what does that have to do with anything with Emma Fenderding? Well, I'll tell you, the law, the Ten Commandments, they were like that roadblock, but Emma went through that road, beside that roadblock, and went and landed in the thorns and was in very bad shape. So when she went through that, sin gained a lot of strength, and it bit her in the behind really bad. And so that's why the Apostle Paul says that the strength of sin is in the law, and when we break the law, sin is strong. It's real strong. But here's the wonderful remedy for that. Jesus, it says in the scriptures, for God has made Jesus to be sin for us, even though he knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness that God requires through him. Jesus is like that doctor. We got bit by sin bad, the thorns of sin. It hurts really bad. But we had to go to the doctor, which is Jesus Christ, and he removed the thorn. You know, even when Jesus went to the cross, remember he was wearing a crown of thorns on his head? Jesus took those thorns for us, and the blood was running down his face. He took those thorns for us on the cross. He became our sin. He removed our sins from us onto himself. And then sin was killed at the cross. Satan got his what for at the cross. Satan had his teeth pulled out of his head at the cross. And that's what Jesus did for us. So anyway, that's my story. I guess I'm done with it now, but it's so good to remember that we do sin. And it's because it's the 10 Commandments are there. They're our roadblock, but we keep going through the roadblocks. And there's consequences. We get stung, we get thorns. But you know, Jesus is our doctor. The doctor for Emma, he didn't die, but Jesus died. The only way to get rid of sin is kill it. And that's why Jesus had to die. He really died on the cross to kill sin. God has laid on him the sins of us all. He took the thorns. He even proved it by having them around his head. So I'm done rambling on now, but it's a good thing to remember that if we're going to sin, it's going to come and get us from the behind. So it's better not to sin at all. And I'll put these references at the top of the story. Thanks for listening to my possum trot parable. I love you guys.